So the average person, including those people who make minimum wage, makes around $15 to $20 per hour. This means that if you were to invest $1,000, although this may not sound like a lot of money to some people, this is actually one entire week of working, or even more in some cases, and that means that you have to work for 8 hours or 5 days, or sometimes even more, just to be able to make $1,000. So in addition to that, if you have $1,000 saved up right now, you are ahead of 70% of Americans. So the point here is that having $1,000 to invest is a big deal, even though a lot of people make it seem that it's not a big deal and it's not a lot of money, because for some people, for the average working person, $1,000 is a lot of money. If you have $1,000 and you want to invest it, then you definitely want to invest this money into something that will yield you good returns. And you want to do this in a way where you have very low risk, where you know that you're not just giving away one entire week's paycheck, or even more in some cases. So this is why in this video, I'll be covering 5 ways that you can invest $1,000. These are all 5 good ways that you can look at, and then you can determine which one or which ones you want to get into. Now, before we get into that, welcome back to the channel if you're already a subscriber. And if you are new here, my name is Eann, and on this channel, I talk a lot about ways to make money, ways to save money, ways to invest your money, credit cards, banking apps, and everything that has to do with personal finance. So if you like these kinds of videos, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. I'll really appreciate it. And then also consider subscribing to this channel and turning on all the notifications. And that way you can get the updates when I post new videos here, and I post a new video on this channel every single day. Now, if the person that I was describing earlier on in this video sounds like you, who has to work an entire week to make $1,000 or even more, if you only have $1,000 saved up right now and that's all the money you have, I wouldn't recommend that you get involved in investing. Instead, I would tell you to create an emergency fund before you get involved in any type of investing. Now, I'm saying this because you invest your money and you have no guarantees to when you'll be able to pull money from your investments and also make a profit. So for example, last year, this time, if you invested $1,000 into Tesla, your money would have grown by almost 600%, which means that you would have about $6,000 invested right now. That's a profit of over $5,000 or around $5,000. Now, this sounds really good, right? Another example is investing in Google. If you had invested $1,000 in Google last year around this time, you would be up about 100% on your investments, which means that you'd have around $2,000 right now and $1,000 in profits. However, just as any other investment, most of these stocks or most of these investments can go up in value, and they can also fluctuate in value over the short term. And this is also the same for a business. You can start a business right now with $1,000. Maybe you can start an online Shopify store, and maybe you don't make any sales for an entire year. Maybe you start making sales when you completely run out of money. And so you always have to think about that side of it, right? So the issue with investing, if you only have $1,000 or if that's the only money you have, is that you invest in something right now and you have no other money. And then in 2 weeks' time, you either lose your job, which can happen, or you have some medical emergencies, or something else comes up and you need some money. Then you could go and pull money from these investments, and then hopefully the investments would have yielded positive results, or at least they have the same value where you could break even. But sometimes that's not the case, and sometimes these investments fluctuate, and so you could invest $1,000 today right now, and then some emergency happens next week and you need $500. And so when you look at your investments in the case of the stock market, the investments that you got into for $1,000 today could be worth $800 next week. So if you pulled your money at that time, you would have lost money, and that's definitely not what you want to do, especially if it took you a while to save this money to invest. This is why I think it's very important before you start investing in anything that you save some money. Have some money saved and set aside so that in the case you have any minor emergencies or any minor unexpected expenses pop up on you, you can easily take care of those without having to touch your investments or having to sell your car or sell your furniture or anything like that. Now, the rule of thumb is to save 3 to 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund, and you need to do this preferably in a high yield savings account. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to save 3 to 6 months of all your current expenses. It means that you save 3 to 6 months off your bare minimum expenses, the ones that you need to survive on. So if you lost your job right now, you probably wouldn't need to watch cable TV. You probably wouldn't need some subscription services that you have right now. And the only thing that you'd consider in this emergency fund is the cost of living that you have right now, which includes your rent or your mortgage, your utilities, other bills, food, and anything else that you need to survive on. Now, when you look at it this way, you'll realize that the amount you need per month in your emergency fund is probably a lot smaller or a smaller number than you initially thought. I remember watching a video here on YouTube. I don't remember, but I think it was a YouTuber called Beat the Bush or a channel called Beat the Bush. And he was explaining that even though he has several expenses right now, if he were to fall off and lose a lot of money and he had to just survive on the bare minimums, he could survive on around $16,000 or $18,000 per year, and this guy is a millionaire. So if you add all your bare minimum expenses and everything that you need just to survive per month, this is probably going to be a lot lower than what you spend right now. So go ahead and do some math, find whatever that number is, and then you can times that by at least 3. Now, once you have that money saved up, you can work towards saving $1,000 to invest. So actually, number 1 on this list is investing in an emergency fund. So before you actually invest in anything that provides you with a return, invest in an emergency fund which covers you in the event that your investments lose value and you need money. Now, the second investment that you could or that you should make is actually to invest in a small business or side hustle or something that makes you cash. Now, cash is actually very important, and making money is actually super important. So think about this, right? Let's say you invested $1,000 into something right now, like an ETF, and the stock market went down and it went down by 30%, and you knew that in a few weeks or a few months it was going to go back up. If you didn't have income streams or cash coming in, then you wouldn't be able to take advantage of that opportunity. If you had a small side gig, even a side hustle, or even an online business like a Shopify store, then you would have cash coming in every single day. And that way you could divert some of this cash that you have coming in into those investments, which you could then use to make you more money. So the second thing that you should be investing in as a beginner, if you have $1,000 right now, is a side hustle, a side gig, a side business, or even an online business. Now, for example, you could spend $600 to $1,000 right now, and you could get a professionally done blog where you can do affiliate marketing. And this is with paying for a website, paying for the domain, paying for hosting, paying professionals on Fiverr to customize this website, paying for content on this website, and also joining any affiliate programs and putting those affiliate links on your blog. And this way, in a few weeks to a few months from now, with the power of SEO, you could start slowly making $100 per week, then $200 per week, then $300 per week. And that way your investment slowly starts to pay off, and you also have cash coming in, which is very important. And that way you can take advantage of other investment opportunities that will come your way. So yes, you can invest in stuff like the stock market, but you want to invest in things that actually get you cash right now, because cash is still king. If you have cash coming in at all times, then you can use that cash to leverage, or you can leverage that cash for more businesses or more side hustles or more investments. So that's the second thing that you can invest $1,000 in right now. Now let's move on to the third way that you can invest $1,000 right now. And this is actually linked to the second method. And we just spoke about how cash was very important. And you should invest in either a business or a side gig or an online business where you can get cash flow, where you can use that cash flow to invest in other things. And so the third thing that you should invest in right now if you have $1,000 is cash, just cash. Number 1 on this list was to invest in an emergency fund, which is also cash. But now you want to also keep some cash on hand at all times. So you have the emergency fund and you have a side gig or a small business that's making you cash, and you have your expenses, and you're investing, but you also want to keep some cash in a savings account or a high yield account somewhere, and you're doing this so that you always have cash available so you can take advantage of any investment opportunities that pop up. So think about this, right? You could have a small business, and let's say you needed some equipment and it was going to take you some time to get the money to get that equipment, and then you found that equipment for cheap somewhere where you could get it for a steal, you could get it very cheap, or maybe even another small business was for sale, or some opportunity came up and you could take advantage of that opportunity, but then it would require that you either sell something, right? You'd have to sell your car, sell some property that you own, sell some of your furniture, sell your investments, and you wouldn't really want to do that. So instead, you can just take the cash that you had set aside and use it for taking advantage of that opportunity. This is also the same with the stock market. If you're investing in stocks and there is some bad news or bad publicity going around with a popular company and the stock price shoots down and you know that this is temporary, it would be great to have cash laying around on the side, which you could dump into that stock for that investment, and then you could make a lot of money without having to sell your stuff to be able to take advantage of that investment opportunity. So be sure to invest some of your income into just cash. Just have cash laying around somewhere. This could be 10 or 15% of your earnings or your income that you don't need for your living expenses. Now let's move on to number 4, and the fourth way that you should invest $1,000 or that you could invest $1,000 today is in the stock market, and that is probably why you clicked on this video. Now, I talk to people all the time about investing, and sometimes they don't want to talk to me, and most of the time they'll say something like, Eann, I really like the idea of investing, but I'm not going to invest my money because I don't want to tie up my money for a year or several months and have no access to my money. That just doesn't sit well with them. But then the very same people will get their tax returns or they'll get their yearly bonus at work and they'll say, well, I won't invest this money because I don't want to tie up my money where I can't have access to it for a couple months or a year, but then they'll spend that money on purchasing a new phone that they don't really need and that doesn't really make any sense to me. Now think about this, right? I have an iPhone X or 10 and I purchased this phone about a year ago or a year and a couple months ago, and I paid around $600 or $700 for this phone. Now the phone is now worth $300 to $400 tops. If I had invested $699 or $700 last year in Tesla, I would be up 5 times my money. So do the math. 5 times 700 is $3,500. So I could have turned $700 into $3,500 in about 12 months. And right now I have this iPhone. I still have the iPhone. I still use it, but it's nothing special. Maybe I felt good about it when I just purchased it, but then after a week or 2 weeks or a month, it's just the phone and I'll need to upgrade it in a couple months or at least by next year. So the idea of using your money like your tax return or your bonus to purchase things that you want, that you don't necessarily need, instead of investing that money isn't really a good idea, because usually you only find value in the stuff that you want in just a few weeks after purchasing them, and then it loses value and you also lose that high interest that you had in the very same item at the beginning. So this is why I think you should invest, and this is why I think you should invest in the stock market, and this is why this is number 4 on this list. You can make a lot of money in a short period of time. Now, stocks do have a risk, and so if you have $1,000 to invest right now, I would suggest that instead of stock picking and trying to figure out which stock is going to go up 5x or 10 times in a few months, you should instead just invest in an ETF where you can get around 10% on average per year in returns. There are a handful of ETFs that can do this. And remember guys, investing in the stock market doesn't cost you anything. It's now free. In 2021, you can download the WEBULL app, which is free, and I have a link below to it. You sign up, you get 2 free stocks, you invest. There's no cost to investing, and there's also no cost to withdraw your money when you want to cash out. So you really have no excuse in 2021 to not be investing in the stock market. Now, the 5th way of investing $1,000 today is actually investing in education. And this is going to cost you less than $1,000, more like $100. And no, I'm not talking about going to college or going to school, because I don't really believe in that anymore. I used to, but not anymore, because I have a degree which hasn't really helped me significantly, and I know many other people who have degrees and certifications of all sorts, and they've made more money from doing things that had nothing to do with whatever it is that they went to school for. So instead, pay for courses or books that will help you to be better at your investments. So for example, if you're thinking about starting a Shopify store or an online business or some kind of side hustle or side gig, maybe you can watch some YouTube videos which are free, and you can get this free information which you can use to get you started in that business or that side gig. But maybe when it comes on to search engine optimization and properly using Google ads or Facebook ads to get business to your online business, as an example, you can purchase a course for $15 or $20, or even a book that shows you some side hustles or methods to profiting from side hustles. And these books are usually very cheap. I'm actually leaving a link below to 2 books on Amazon. One is for 100 side hustles and one is for 450 side hustles. And these books cost less than $20, and you can get a lot of good information and a lot of good ideas from these books. Now, you don't have to buy these, but similarly, whatever it is that you're doing or you're trying to do to make money, if you can spend $20, $30, even $50 for some information or a course or a book that helps you with that investment or that business, then you should definitely do so, because that's an investment that can help you make a lot more money. So those are my 5 picks for investments, and if I had $1,000 right now and I needed to invest it today, or I wanted to invest $1,000 today, this is where I would start and this is what I would do myself. Comment below and let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my investments in this video, and also give this video a thumbs up if you like the content and you like seeing these videos, as it helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and remember to turn on all the notifications, and that way you can get the updates every day when I post the new videos here. Now, remember guys, if you want to get into the stock market and you want to start investing in stocks, you can use WEBULL, which is completely free to join, and use it. And if you click on the link down below and sign up with my link, you'll get 2 free stocks after depositing just $100 in your investment portfolio. And these stocks can be anything worth up to $1,000, worth up to $1,600. And as always, thanks for watching. All the best with your investments and making money. And I'll see you guys tomorrow in the next one.